There's this one animal that's a total paradox. For more than 1 billion people, it's a forbidden abomination. But for billions of others, it's a celebrated staple. From breakfast bacon to holiday ham. We're talking about the pig, an animal that's right at the heart of global cuisine and at the dead center of a profound religious divide. So that's the big question, right? How did this one animal become such a powerful symbol? Something that can define entire communities and draw these sacred lines in the sand. Well, that's the mystery we're going to unpack today. What is really behind this huge disagreement over pork? To get to the bottom of this, we've got to go way, way back. Thousands of years, actually, to the ancient laws written down in the Hebrew Bible. This is where it all begins. It's where the first and maybe the most famous prohibition was ever laid down. And there it is. The text itself is just incredibly direct. It's a commandment from God to Moses and the people of Israel. This isn't a suggestion, it's not a health tip, it's a divine decree. The pig, because of its specific biology, it has the cloven hooves, but it doesn't chew the cud, is declared ritually unclean. End of story. And this is absolutely crucial to understand. For the Jewish people, staying away from pork became a core part of their covenant with God. It was this daily, tangible reminder that they were a people set apart, totally distinct from the other nations around them. So every single meal became an act of faith and a declaration of who they were. Okay, so the simple answer is God said so. But for literally millennia, thinkers have been asking why? Why the pig? Was it just an arbitrary choice, or was there some kind of deeper reason behind it? So let's play detective a little bit and investigate the clues, which it turns out fall into 3 really fascinating categories. Now, these explanations don't have to be separate. They can all be true at once, but they give us these different lenses to understand the why. So first, we'll look at the theological answer, that it's all about pure faith. Then a surprisingly practical, almost economic answer. And finally, a social answer, all about how what you eat really defines who you are. So the first explanation is probably the most straightforward. It just comes down to obedience. From this point of view, God's commandments don't have to make perfect, practical sense to us humans. The law isn't that pigs are gross. The law is that God said, don't eat this animal. The whole point is to trust and obey a divine plan that's way beyond our full understanding. And this leads to this really unique Jewish teaching that kind of flips the whole idea on its head. It suggests the pig's unclean status isn't forever. The idea is that in a future, redeemed world, the Messianic age, the pig itself will change. It'll actually start to chew its cud. And when that happens, it'll become kosher. Not because the law changed, but because the animal finally fits the law's rules. All right, let's shift gears to a totally different kind of clue. An economist named Peter Leeson came up with this really practical theory. See, in ancient Judah, all pigs were free-ranging. And if you know anything about pigs, you know they can be incredibly destructive. They trample crops, they root up entire fields, they'll even attack other livestock. He argues the ban was basically an economic tool to stop what he calls swine externalities, to protect the whole agricultural system that the lawmakers depended on. And it's not like this is a new idea. Everybody back then knew how destructive pigs were. You can even see it echoed in ancient texts. This verse from Psalms describes a wild boar just laying waste to a vineyard. That's a perfect picture of the exact kind of agricultural chaos the ban might have been designed to prevent. And that brings us to our third clue, which is all about sociology. Look, food is never just food, right? It's a powerful tool for building a community. When you establish a unique set of rules about what you can and can't eat, you create a really clear boundary. Every meal you share reinforces who is us, and every food you avoid marks who is them. The pork taboo became this powerful daily reminder that maintained a distinct Jewish identity. So for centuries, this prohibition was a defining feature of God's people. But then, with the rise of a new faith from right within Judaism, well, everything was about to change. Christianity took a dramatic turn, and it ended up lifting this ancient ban for all of its followers. Wow. The contrast here could not be more stark. On one side, you have the crystal clear prohibition from Leviticus. On the other, you have this statement from the Gospel of Mark, where Jesus is described as having declared all foods clean. This is a monumental shift in thinking. So what happened? Well, the whole theological focus shifted. Jesus taught that what truly makes a person unclean isn't the food they eat. That just passes through the body. Instead, what really defiles a person are the evil things that come from inside, from the heart. The emphasis moved from external rituals to internal morality. This new way of thinking was really cemented in this famous vision that the Apostle Peter had. He sees a sheet lowered from heaven, and it's filled with all sorts of animals considered unclean, pigs included. When a voice tells him to eat, he instinctively refuses, citing Jewish law. But the divine reply, "What God has made clean, do not call common," was absolutely revolutionary. This was interpreted to mean that the old barriers between Jews and non-Jews, and by extension between clean and unclean foods, were coming down. Now, it might seem like a closed case for Christians, right? But the story is actually a little more complex. There is a pretty significant counter-argument within Christianity that challenges this whole interpretation, arguing that those original dietary laws are, in fact, still in effect. So this perspective argues, first, that the key line in Mark's gospel about declaring all foods clean was actually just an explanatory note added by later translators, not Jesus' original words. They also say Peter's vision was purely symbolic. It was a lesson about accepting non-Jewish people into the faith, not a license to eat pork. And finally, that other New Testament passages about food were actually warnings against specific heresies of the time, not an overturning of the laws from Leviticus. Okay, let's fast forward about 6 centuries. Another major Abrahamic faith emerges, Islam, and it too had to address the question of pork, and its approach would be definitive. Islam didn't abolish the ban, it powerfully reaffirmed it. The Quran explicitly forbids eating pork, flat out declaring it impure. So for Muslims, much like for Jews, avoiding pork is a fundamental act of obedience and submission to God's revealed will. It forms a core part of their religious identity and their daily practice. Now, while both Judaism's dietary laws, called kashrut, and Islam's, called halal, both say no to pork, they are definitely distinct systems. As you can see here, both require a specific method of ritual slaughter. But then you see the differences. Islam forbids alcohol, which Judaism permits, and Judaism famously forbids mixing meat and dairy, which Islam allows. It's fascinating. So, after going down all these different paths, theology, economics, sociology, and the divergence of these massive faiths, what have we actually learned? Let's try to bring all the pieces of this incredible puzzle together. It turns out the answer to the pork paradox isn't just one simple thing. It's a combination of all these powerful forces working together: a divine test of faith, a practical solution to a real-world agricultural problem, a method for forging a unique cultural identity, and for some, an ancient symbol that was transformed by a new revelation. So at the end of the day, the story of the pig isn't really just about an animal, is it? It's about how we as human beings relate to God, to the world around us, and to each other. Its meaning is this complex tapestry, and every single thread, faith, history, economics, and community, is absolutely essential to seeing the whole picture. And that leaves us with one final thought. We've definitely seen how food can build walls. But if we really take the time to understand the deep and complex reasons why we all eat what we eat, maybe, just maybe, that understanding could become a bridge instead.